Hi, my name is Perry Barrow, Managing Director of Global Search Executive Recruitment, specialist in HR, management consultancy and banking and finance recruitment. Today's screencast is on the subject of winning the war for talent 2.0, how to attain and acquire the best talent available in the market and how to retain them within your organization. Today it's my honor to introduce Professor Satya Bhawani, who will talk you through the latest concepts and techniques for talent management and talent acquisition available today.
Welcome again to our CE and Global Search webinar series for 2017. This is the third in a series of 6 webinars that we have organized for this 2017, and this today's topic is about winning the war for talent 2.0. You know, over the years, in my role as an executive coach and also my previous role as a human resource consultant with both Hay Group, Mercer, DBM, I found that and also of course my current role with CE, that many organizations define talent differently. They have different understanding of what talent is and different approaches the organization embark upon in identifying, selecting and developing talent. That's important for us to re-examine today in today's context in developing the millennials. Is it still relevant? What are some of the issues that we face in the workplace as business leaders, as HR leaders? How can we help our organization to prepare for the future by developing this group of talent as we speak? And again, it means differently to different organizations. But to start off, I'd like to ask this question to all of you. What is the current state of talent management in your organization? I would like to encourage you to think about the operational challenges that you are experiencing today in managing talent at all levels during hypertensions. How do you define talent in your organization? What are some of the strategies that you have implemented to resolving these challenges? How successful have you been? So let's take some time, pause and reflect, and I'd like to welcome questions over the chat as we can discuss them. Okay. Now, thank you. Now let's look at some. Of course, I have different definitions, different interesting perspectives that some of you have shared about what talent management and what talent itself means to you and your organization, and what are some of the challenges that you face and what you have done. But let me talk about. Many people ask me a question: How do we define talent? How does it fit into the broader human resource management? Are they synonymous? Are there differences in terms of the role of HR manager or HR business partner? What do you need to do? How do you advise for the HR business partner? How do you advise business leader? What does talent management mean? How does it fit into human resource management? But if you look at human resource management, generally can be fit into 4 generic processes. Include recruitment and selection, or talent acquisition, performance management, reward, which is compensation and benefit, and learning and development. Generally, these are the 4 generic. Of course, there are many others, industrial relations and so forth, but HRIS, human resource information system. But generally, by and large, these are the 4 core generic processes, and all 4 involve with what we call talent management. So talent management encompasses all 4 processes or functions. So you need to understand the impact. So what does it mean? So our definition of talent management is the strategic management or the flow of talent throughout the organization. The word is flow of talent. And I would believe that talent management is a very critical function in organizations, not only HR, across all organizations. And this is important. Talent management is the responsibility of every single business leader. Now, not HR alone, because HR role is to facilitate, is to support line managers, business leader to develop their own talent. In other words, if in your own function, your own department, your own division, those talent within your respective purview or within your responsibilities, so to speak, you are responsible to manage the talent within your department and organization or division, as I mentioned earlier. So why is this important? So talent management purpose is to ensure that the supply of talent is available to align the right people with the right jobs at the right time based on strategic business objective. Let me give you an example. If your organization has decided that you are moving into China and India as a strategy to go into emerging market, forging collaboration with partners in those two big local foreign markets. So how do you then develop your leaders to have the right skills? Do you have the right talent to be able to deploy in those markets? Do you have the skills? Do you have the set of skills? Do they have the readily skills, or you need to develop them? So this is important. So you need to understand your objective, your business objective first. And then the talent management functions to support the execution of your strategy so you get the right talent to develop or execute a strategy to achieve your goal and your business objective. So the right supply of workforce is critical to ensure that you realize the goals of the organization or your strategy, and this is important for today and the future. So a lot of time when you talk to HR leader, business leaders, talk about now, today. What do we need to do differently? Who are the people we need to identify and deploy, and who are the people that we need to promote, select, and to move to the next level. So not only today, but you also need to think of the future, because as your organization grows, as you look at who's ready now, who's ready 1 to 2 years, who's ready 3 to 5 years, and that is part of your succession planning strategy, because that is the integral part of talent management. How do you ensure a ready pipeline of leaders that are developed to help you to transform your organization? The concept of talent management is interesting. I must say one organization that has been very instrumental is McKinsey. The war for talent, the concept of talent management. This is back in the 1990s when McKinsey introduced a concept called the war for talent, where they talk about talent management is defined. They define it as critical success factor for achieving sustainable organizational success. So the McKinsey point of view is that to ensure a sustainable future or success for the organization, talent management is the integral part. And the way they define it, very simply, they talk about two issues here. One is the differentiated performance. So you have A, B, C players, how you differentiate different employer based on the performance. And then they also look at what are the mission critical positions in the organization, whether those positions need to be able to ensure you have readily available or future successors in place. So one is about differentiated performance, players, people who are able to perform well now. The other one, what are the mission critical role, and how do you ensure that you have the right skills for these people to take the organization to the future? So McKinsey framework is largely been adopted by many organizations today. And that is a challenge, because when we talk about talent, when I ask leaders today, what is talent? Everyone seems to come with different definitions, different interpretation what talent is. And McKinsey defined it simply as it's a sum of a person's ability, his or her intrinsic gift, skills, knowledge, capability, experience, intelligence, both IQ and EQ, judgment, character, drive. And interestingly, one of the attributes is about the ability of the individual to learn and grow, or what we today call learning agility. So if you look at talent, has been defined by different organizations differently. But I think McKinsey definition is, I think, covered very broad. And this is something that, of course, each organization has to decide how they want to define talent, because when they assess, when you identify someone, when you assess and develop, it will be based on your own organization definition. So this is very important. So what is your definition of talent? How do you identify, select, and develop your talent? So that leads to the question is, who are these talented people? Because if talent is a summation of a person's attributes, skills, and so forth. So when we talk about talent in organization, we always ask, who are these talented people? Many times I tend to hear the word called high potentials. High potentials are the only individuals that considers talented people within the organization. So this is something that each organization has to define differently. There's no right or wrong answer. I mean, how do you define the talent in the organization will dictate, how your policy, your talent acquisition policy, your development policy, and so forth. So if I were to look at the McKinsey framework again, the way they define talent is about how this group of people or individual who demonstrate exceptional ability and achievement over a range of activities. Now, that's where you look at high potential. They tend to fit into their role. They have a transferable high competence, meaning they can transfer, the skills are transferable. If you move them from a finance to a marketing, or from marketing into operation, they will be consistently able to achieve superior results because the skills are transferable. They're able to adapt successfully into moving into the new role. And also they're able to have impact and influence with people with their high level of social, emotional intelligence to be able to meet the challenge in the VUCA world. Again, if you remember in webinar, for those of you who attended my webinar 1 and webinar 2, I talked about earlier the transforming leadership in the VUCA world. It's about ensuring that you have a very high level of emotional and social intelligence. So a great deal. Today, if you look at many high potentials that I have developed, and I see myself, my role as a diamond brilliant. I always share this, some of my coaches, lady CEOs, ladies coaches, that when I share that they all love diamond. And so is my wife. Every woman loves diamond. So I always see myself as a diamond brilliant. What do I mean by that? I always believe that you can polish an uncut diamond, you polish a brilliant, polish it to brilliance, to become exceptional to quality. So that's what I do. And I talk about talented people, is about how can you help them, polish them, guide them, shape, mold them into a very successful leader. And that is very important. They have the skill, the ability, and some of them are hidden. They have the potential. We talk about hidden innate qualities where you can help them to be successful. Now, let me pause here and share with you a very short video about talent management from one of the global leading organization, General Electric. As you probably know, Jack Welch is one of the longest serving GE's chairman and CEO. I have deepest respect, and it's one of my idols from a leadership standpoint, a contemporary leader. And of course, his successor, Jeff Immelt, who again has his own right, has been able to transform GE post Jack Welch in 2001 when he took over from Jack Welch. Today is about more than nearly 15 years. Jeff has transformed GE to a different organization. But I'd like to take some time to pause and listen to these two leaders and what they believe, what makes GE what we call talent engine, and how GE has been very successful in talent management. So let me take an excerpt from this interview. So let's watch the video.
In 125 years, we have grown as a multi-business company, okay? And so if you're a multi-business company, what brings you together? Management then becomes, in GE, a study of what brings you together. You know, what brings an NBC and plastics together? What brings a plastics and power systems together? What brings medical and financial systems together? Financial system, you know, the operating model, operating rigor, you know, balance sheet, cash flow generation. It's a set of leading businesses, but as much as anything, it's a culture and people. I spent 2 years at your school studying why conglomerates were stupid, you know. The one thing they miss is the fact that when you build a culture and a set of values, you can create a difference. You can create real value added across a multiple set of businesses, and that's something that we truly believe in here. And so my contention is if you're in a multi-business company, people has to be a core competency. It has to be a big part of your operating model, and it is in GE. You know, that's how we do things. Now, the point on people is, in order to run an effective multi-business company, you can't do it unless you're totally committed to career development, recruiting, hiring, retaining the world's best people. My contention is that I've got better people in our medical business. I've got better people in our plastics business. I've got better people in our financial service business because they see more. Because they see more. Joe Hogan, running GE Medical, has spent half of his career outside the U.S. He's been in 3 different businesses. He understands both the application of technology and how it's sold. He knows more than any of his competitors about the financial model of the healthcare industry because we have a healthcare finance business that Siemens and Philips and his competitors don't have. So by the time he's running GE Medical, he's seen more, he's done more. He's got a better domain knowledge than any of his competitors because of what gets shared across GE. And he can just lead those businesses better. It's just a fact. The times when I thought about leaving GE weren't when it was tough. It was when I was getting bored. And so for your senior leaders, it can never feel stale. They got to feel like the company's getting better, that their ideas count, that their views are important. And that's critical. We spend almost $1 billion a year in training. We, you know, spend 30 or 40% of my time, all of Bill's time, a lot of our leadership time, coaching, nurturing, developing people. There's nobody that makes senior executive band in GE without my approval. So I've got to spend time with everybody. I know most of them, but occasionally there'll be people from the outside. They all have to come through my office. And we feel very good about being able to move people from business to business and from job to job inside that band, you know. And look, if I could do it for 5,000, I'd do it for 5,000. I just don't have enough time. But 600, you can do reasonably well. The most important part about Session C is the discussion of the 600 people. So really, beginning, it's a leadership discussion. So when I go to Atlanta, the power systems in Atlanta, and let's say that business of the 600 might have 50, okay? The very first thing we do is review that 50. We'll review how they're doing.
As far as the vitality curve is concerned, people say that's Darwinian, somewhat cruel. I say not practicing it is false kindness. If I wrote my book again, I would have spent a chapter in front of the vitality curve talking about the need to have 3, 4 years, 5 years of candid appraisals before you act on them. Because appraisals in 90% of the companies that will see this tape are phony. Totally phony. They'll say everything's fine, person's growing, and the managers will go home saying, what a nice manager I am, until trouble comes. If you have a system of candor, and if you spend a lot of time on the human resource process, and people know where they stand, you don't have any problem with these systems. Reward the top 20, hug them, kiss them, pay them, make sure they can never be lost. The middle 70, every one of them is vital to our business. Let's see if they can get to the top 20. Let's give half of them options, but not every year. See how they're doing. Every year if they're at the top of that spectrum, not every year if they're not. And the bottom 10, tell them they're there, and tell them early, because they will then have the option of going somewhere where they won't be in the bottom 10. And let me tell you, it sounds like they get fired. 70 to 80% of them find a job on their own. Who wants to be in a place where they're perceived as the bottom 10%? They pack up, go on to a new career, do very well, as long as they've been treated fairly and openly and candidly.
Now, listening to both of them, I'm sure you've learned something about what it takes to succeed, why organizations have to invest in developing leaders, why you need to take the time to develop your high potentials, develop these so-called talented individuals within the organization. You need to invest time to be able to transform these future leaders in organizations. So I think this is something we can learn from GE. And that brings me to the framework, the CE framework, what we call the talent management framework. Now, we all know very clearly we have our strategy, our mission, vision, that drive the talent management strategy of the organization. So you need to get that right. Once you get that right, then you need to be able to look at talent acquisition, hiring the right people, work with the, if necessary, partner executive search firm. Like, for example, some of my clients work with Global Search, which is our partner for this webinar, to identify and work towards finding the right talent within the organization. That's very important. Talent acquisition is the first step. You have to get that right. Define the competency that you need for that different role. Remember, we defined earlier talent management is about mission critical role. So get that competency defined, recruit, acquire the talent, whether internally or externally, and then you need to look at talent development. How do you prepare, train them, coach them, guide them, and how do you set performance management processes to give them feedback, set KPI to help them to be able to achieve the organization, their individual goals, that of the department, division, and that of organization. And how do you ensure succession planning? Every leader needs to ask themselves this question: do I have someone ready now, ready 1 to 2 years, ready 3 to 5 years to take on my role? That is critical. There have been too many stories, and I can share you in my role as an executive coach, as consultant, HR consultant, that I found many organizations caught in a situation where when the CEO had to leave either abruptly, whether through medical death, one, or they had to be relieved of the position because of many other situation, they do not have a successor ready in place. Now, that is the biggest challenge today leaders face. How do you ensure leaders are ready? Do you have their next line of leadership, the bench strength, available to take on the role? So that leads to what the last part, what we call in our model called talent engagement. So how do you engage these people to be able this every day to lead their team? If you're able to do this well, you put all this into a framework that way to execute it effectively, you will achieve your organizational results. Again, if you'd like to know more about this framework, go to our website, ce-global.com. There's an article called We Need a War for Talent 2.0, which is the theme of this webinar. And also there is a site where you can go in and read up more about this different element of the talent management framework that we talked about, which gives you more insights into how do you implement this in your organization. Now, I think, let me just pause here and ask this question to all of you again. How does talent management fit into your organization's HR function? So reflect over the years that you have been, whether your current organization or your past your current or your past organization. Look at how does the talent management evolve. What are the activities that you considered as critical in a talent management function? Whether your role as HR manager or strategic business partner or to the line of business manager, because a lot of us in HR double up or function as the role of HR business partner. So how do we then advise line managers? So take some time, think about some of the activities, some of the experience that you've had, and ask questions over the chat. Now, thank you very much. So, if you can see here from this slide, the talent management fit very nicely into the human resource function. As I say, from talent acquisition, talent development, performance management, and planning. The HR, all these fit into the overall function of HR, because HR is all about working towards leveraging on the human capital, human resource, which is the most precious resource within the organization, apart from financial, apart from other resources. The human resource is the most important because it's the people who execute the strategy. So how do you get the right talent in place? How do you develop? How do you put the succession planning framework in place to ensure that you have the future leaders ready to take on board the role and responsibility? So the future is bright. So many organizations today realize they cannot do without talent management. So you need to look at talent management on how can you use talent management to transform your organization to ensure you have leaders who are ready tomorrow, ready now, today and tomorrow. How can you create a sustainable competitive advantage? Because talent management allows you to achieve many benefits, one of which to cut down the very high turnover rates, and of course reduce the cost of constantly hiring new people and cost of training them. And in the book called The First 90 Days by Michael Watkins, who was formerly from Harvard Business School and then INSEAD, and that book, Michael Watkins talked about the cost for every leader who failed is about 12 times the annual salary of the individual. So, and the impact that, because when the leader fails, it impacts many other individuals who work with that leader. So it's important for us to find ways, how do we keep leaders or develop them to be successful in their role? Because the cost is too great. The impact is in terms of across the organization. So talent management is a way to mitigate this risk, to ensure that the organization remains sustainable in the future. So that is the concept of succession planning. As I said earlier, it's about how do you ensure the leaders, especially in mission critical role, how do you ensure they are readily available, whether now, 1 to 2 years or 3 to 5 years, to be able to lead the organization of the future. Now that brings to the topic called high potentials. Now, high potentials are individuals, as I said, significantly, consistently demonstrate superior capability, outperform their peer in a variety of settings. They are able to demonstrate behaviors that are consistent with the organizational values and beliefs in a very exemplary manner. And high potentials are also show the capacity to learn, unlearn, relearn, the learning agility, the grow, the desire to move quickly in the organization and to be successful in different settings, different roles. They have transferable skills, competence that they can use in different roles. So that group of individuals called high potential has to be one of the primary focus in terms of developing, ensuring the success of the organization. So, but I want to caution here, it's very important not to confuse high potential and high performance. In my role as a coach, I've coached many individuals, including sales directors, very high performing sales leaders, business leaders. They're very successful because they do well in their current role. But when you put them into a different role, when you put them in different setting, they fail miserably. This is what happens to a lot of sales leaders. They are a great salesperson. When you promote them to become leader, they fail. And or you look at a particular finance manager or marketing manager, they have very great skills to perform that particular role. But when you try to promote or try to put them into a different role, they fail. Because performance should not be the only criteria or the absolute criteria to look at developing high potentials. So performance is only one aspect. Of course, there are others, as I said, those areas I talk about learning, demonstrating superior quality, competency, values, learning agility, and many others that they have consistently demonstrated. Now, at CE, we have a framework of developing future leaders, developing high posts. In a book called the Coaching in Asia, I was one of the co-authors looking at developing future leaders. So the book Coaching in Asia, the First Decade, one of the chapters that I wrote called the Developing Future Leader and the Art of the Transforming Leader, where I share this framework. How do you look at coaching as a means of transition coaching to develop future leader? How do you understand from organization perspective, what are the sponsoring organization priority? What are the individual leader priority? How do you then transform using different set of organizational development intervention to prepare them to be successful? And that is important. And to conclude, let me just share with you a few pointers about how can you transform your organization to ensure that talent management is an integral part. Number one, HR and business leader need to work together. So it's not only the role of HR, it's as HR has to impress upon the business leader that is their role, their responsibility, and including the CEO, to ensure talent is a driver of business success in the organization. Second, no strategy, no organization development intervention can be successful without the involvement, endorsement, sponsorship of the senior leadership. So make sure that your CEO, your head of business unit is fully on board, and you need to share with them the benefit, and most of them today realize the importance of to have the right leaders in place. So the importance of to remind them, to constantly remind them the importance to invest and the talent that you want to develop for the future. Third, how do you create a sustainable organizational performance by successful succession planning? That's the heart of any organization success. So how do you have the right leaders in the future, today and the future, and make sure that the success of the organization is because of the people? As I say, the people is the one who execute the strategy. The next generation leaders is about how do you develop the skills, the competency to help them to navigate the challenges in tomorrow business environment. And of course, today, the VUCA world. So you need to ensure that they have the skills. And in my last webinar, I talked about leaping through the fog of the VUCA world. It's about how do you develop a liberal thinking, have an exuberant disposition, how do you have agility, mental learning agility, and lastly, how do you develop a trust-based partnership? So all these skills for the future, you need to be able to get your leaders to be developed. Is it easy? Not necessarily. It won't be easy, but you need to invest in it. You need to put into effort, put a lot of effort into it. But the success, the benefit is phenomenal, and you can reap the benefit. And I've worked with many organizations in Malaysia, Singapore, across the world, in the US, who have been very successful in implementing this framework, and I'm sure it will benefit your organization too. With that note, I wish you the very best, and I hope you have developed some insights on how you can apply some of these skills to your organization, and you can start looking at some of these framework tools, having a dialogue with your senior leader, and we look forward to have you to join us in our next webinar in the coming month. Thank you. Have a great day. I believe we have a question here, which was posed earlier regarding how do you identify talent, high potential versus ordinary talent, and what are the ways to assess and identify them? Let me try to answer that question, and I hope you can hear me. I think the question refers to how do you identify high potential talent. As I mentioned earlier in the presentation, it's very important to understand the difference between potential and performance. The mistake look at performance as the primary consideration in assessing an individual whether the person is high potential. But there are other considerations, as I mentioned earlier, that you need to look at before you can ascertain whether potential or a talented individual. One of which, of course, to look at whether the person is able to demonstrate the competency of a higher level role or a more a level which is far above what he or she is demonstrating now. Second is ability to move into different role, responsibility or function across the organization, apart from what he or she is functionally great at, but look at other roles and other functional areas. Third is ability to demonstrate the organizational values is very important, the alignment to organizational values, and also the ability to demonstrate mental and learning agility. That is very important. How do you learn, unlearn, and relearn? And also, I think what I mentioned earlier, the cognitive readiness, that is important. Ability to have both mental and emotional ability to manage risks, making, develop problem solving, decision making. Yeah. So I think that is very important. So I have another question here. How would you advise how to identify great talent? How do you drive toward a successful organization from Maya? I think again, what I just mentioned earlier is to be able to look at three areas. One is the individual capability to demonstrate competency beyond his current role. Third, whether he's able to have transferable skills, able to move into different functional roles successfully beyond his current. His ability to demonstrate the organizational values, ability to be able to show that being a role model, able to demonstrate it effectively. That is very important, and of course, as I mentioned, the lead competencies, which is including the learning agility, cognitive readiness, the nature of leadership competency. So those are the areas. Of course, you can get more information from the website, and there are a lot of papers that we have published. I'm going to ask a question: how can we develop specific measurement or run assessment to identify talent? This is a very good question. I think one of the tools that I consistently have found to be a good predictor of success of measuring talent, effectiveness, or high potential talent is that from Hogan. Hogan has a suite of assessment, including HPI, High Performance Index assessment, inventory, and you have HDS, which is the dark side, which measure the derailer. And I think that tool is very important. How do you identify someone who potentially may on onset looks a great talent, or has the able to demonstrate potentially the attributes of a great high potential, but how do you then go deeper into that using the HDS, the Hogan high potential suite of assessment? Of course, there another assessment that I use consistently is Baron EQI and EQ360, which is a very powerful tool to look at the various 16 set of competencies that you look for based on the emotional, social intelligence framework by Reuven Baron. Again, that would allow you to assess an individual high potential talent. And of course, there are many other 360 by EDA, which is called Leadership Effectiveness Survey. And of course, you can use the many other tools, like, for example, what we call the personality profiling tool, and so forth. So these are some of the consideration that tools that I would recommend. Yeah. Are there any other questions? And I think it's very important. It's very important that we continue to look at all these considerations and some of these recommendations that I've put forward in the video. Please have a chance to review them again. I will be sending to those participants who have logged in today a set of resource materials that you can review and look at what are some of the best practices, some of the competency that we look for next gen leadership competency, including the from the EDA report, the 2016 report that you get a copy, which describe the cognitive readiness competencies that is critical for success in the VUCA world. I'm not sure there's any other question. Okay, there's another question from Benjamin. How do you transit talent from a pool of limited individuals who can perform but has potential but yet to be, well, this question stopped there. How do you transit talent from a pool of limited individuals who can perform but has potential but yet to be ascertained, I suppose? So I think, again, you need to look at, over a period of time, a person who, one good example when I look at salespeople who has consistently demonstrated superior performance, and when they are promoted and they have been identified for leadership role, they fail miserably. So this is the thing that we need to be mindful of. Someone who has been successful performance-wise, but may not necessarily translate it into high potential. Then the other thing that I think more specific to what Benjamin is asking, when you have a pool of limited individuals, I think it's important to test and to develop perhaps rigorous assessment, rigorous basket of assessment to let them assess them. Also, one of the ways to have job rotation, put this individual, Benjamin, you can put this individual to various what we call the job roles within the organization to see how well the person performed. And that's one way to ascertain the transferable skills that we talked about earlier. So it's more about observation, giving them stretch assignment. And one of the things that I would recommend is to be able to let them develop what we call the projects or take lead in certain visible projects where the individual can then demonstrate the agility in the ability to transform or deliver what is expected from them. And I think Maya asking another question, how do you make talent to even perform more, and what is the best way to retain them? I think them and trust, and that is where the leadership role comes in. The senior leadership and individual leaders, business leaders, really CEO, and need to be able to create a culture of trust. This is absolutely important because they need to be they feel that to be given their responsibility, and they need to feel that they are empowered to do the job. And also I think it's very important to retain talent is to look at the senior leadership or their what we call the immediate supervisor. How do you ensure the leaders who's leading this group of talent have the necessary skills to engage this group of people? So especially in the millennials, if your talent consists of the millennials, it's far much more important to be able to understand them as individuals. Therefore, it boils down to leadership effectiveness. How do individual leaders develop the ability to reassess and develop a high level of self-awareness that they are able to transform themselves and their co-leaders? And here, co-leaders, I mean by what I mean by co-leaders are their direct report. And how do you lead your team by ensuring they create a climate of trust? When there's a climate of trust, they feel they're engaged, and then they'll be able to deliver superior performance, and able to engage their customers, internal, external customers, which would then lead to sustainable organizational results. So therefore, at the end of the day, it's all about the leadership role and responsibility. I hope I answered your question, Maya, and Benjamin as well earlier. So, is there any other questions or any comment based on what I've just said? Please feel free to put your question or in the chat or in the Q&A chat box.
Thank you, everybody, for listening, and please feel free to join us for the up-and-coming webinars. There's still 3 more, as presented by Global Search Executive Recruitment and CEE. with Sata Bhuwani. So we look forward to seeing you at those webinars. If you've already registered for this webinar, you're actually automatically subscribed to the next 3, which are in the middle of April, May, and June. We look forward to seeing you then.
Thank you, everyone, and look forward to seeing you then next month. Bye. My name is Sata Bhuwani. I'm the CEO of Center for Executive Education and as well as the Managing Director of Executive Development Associate Incorporated in the US. Together with Global Search, we will be presenting you a series that is designed to help you both as HR and business leader to help your organization to develop into what we call a high-performance organization. We have developed is based through my experience the last 30 years working with global organizations such as HEI Group, Forum Corporation, Mercer, Human Resource Consulting, and DBM, Drake B. Maureen, and of course my current role with CE and EDA. I mean, for you, what benefit will you get by attending this workshop or this series? Number one, it's contemporary because it includes all framework, approaches, models that is relevant in today's business world. So it's very important you learn those contemporary and how do you apply it at work. Then it's practical because all the tools that we introduce during our master classes and workshops, these can be immediately implemented and you can bring it back to your organization, have a dialogue with your HR or your business leader or your CEO on how you can apply it to your organization to develop towards being a high performance organization. And then the R is CPR. R is relevant. So it's designed to ensure that it's relevant to you as a business leader or HR leader, where you can, again, in your current role, different roles that you play as a business leader, what does it mean to you to be successful as a leader? First is about leading the VUCA world. Second is about results-based leadership. How do you focus on emotion and social intelligence to drive the organization for success? Third is about winning the war for talent. How do you drive your organization to identify the high potential, developing them to a good success? Fourth is about developing a corporate coaching culture by developing your leaders to have the right coaching skills. Fifth is about inspiring your future workforce, multi-generational workforce. What are the leadership skills or competency you need to do differently, attribute the expected from these people. And last but not least, the sixth is about developing high-performing team using the framework called the SCORE framework. How do you as leader create a trust-based team? I look forward to having you join us and participate actively. With that note, I would thank you very much and I hope to see you. Thank you. Bye.